Hello and welcome again to the show. My name's Irrelevant. This is Do All the Things. On today's episode, the Bugera 1990. We're going to play on it a bit, see what it can do. And I'm also going to compare it against my Mark 3 clone. If you've been following the comedy, you know that I like to build amps. You know that I like to clone some amps. And you know that unlike most people, I actually built a JCM 900 clone. Specifically, the Mark 3 master volume. Not even the dual reverb. The Mark 3 was an all-tube variant. It came out before the dual reverb, as far as I know. Before they went and added all the op amps in there. But I do find that certain tonal qualities they have are very similar. We're gonna see that here, even though this might not be the best representation of the Mark 3. Especially, you know, they're running different tubes. I'm not gonna bother doing tube swaps. Right now, the Bugera, in its first tube preamp position, has a JJ803S, one of my favorite ones. This has a slightly bright sound. I like to tame those highs a bit. Also taming those highs, the power tubes. We have a pair of JJ6CA7s, another one of my favorite tubes. And yes, this amp will run just 2 tubes, just fine. All you have to do is if you have a 8 ohm cab, switch it to 4 ohms. 16, switch it to 8 ohms. In the buffer position, second preamp tube, an Electro Harmonix 7025. And then finally, a Sovtek 5751 in the phase inverter. I like that there to smooth things out. My Mark 3 is using Electro Harmonix 6CA7s. They have a flatter mid, but more high-end sparkle. I found this amp darker in practice. The first 2 preamp tubes are Mullard CV4004s, I do believe they're called. And then it actually has a Russian 6N1P, the 1P, not the 2P, in the phase inverter, because I found it was a bit brighter. I did mod this for that tube because I found it was the best sounding phase inverter in this amp. Again, brightening things up a bit. So, let's try the Bugera. Now, the interesting thing to know is if you're into foot switching, is it uses momentary foot switching, not click on and off foot switching. So this should change the channel now. Yeah, momentary. Wait, it's a little flaky. That might be the switch. I just wanted to try this to show you. But then, you know, it has its own foot switch and, well, it's not about the foot switch. I just wanted to tinker with that. So right now, we're on the clean channel. You're gonna hear it has actually a bit of dirt. It's actually at 10 right now. Let's go to our bridge. Actually, I find that has less distortion than straight plugged into an 800. That reminds me more of if you had a master volume on a super lead, a 2+0 circuit, that's what it would sound like. But it does clean up reasonably well with just a little bit of grit. Now, if only my playing would clean up a bit. Honestly, I'm not much for Grandpa's guitars, so, wow, you know. Do we want clean? No, we want dirty. Let's turn it to 22, bud. Mids are at 4, bass is at 10 because Marshalls are always lame in the bass. Treble is at about between 6 and 7. Presence will put it the same. Yeah, it's got some bright, bud. Let's turn that trebby down a bit and that presence. Let's flatten them out. 5, 5. I'm gonna leave the bass cranked. Let's bring mid to 5 too. I I like that it has just enough gain to do harmonics. Come on, first day with your new fingers, bud? Not warmed up, excuse box. In ways, it has all the tone you need for a lot of 90s alternative. That does have a bright sound though, like. Let's compare that to my Mark 3 real quick. About the same amount of hiss. Mark 3's very quiet circuit. Yeah, right off the bat, you notice it's warmer sounding. But then again, the thing is, you notice the overall soul of them is very similar. It does lead me to believe that, you know, Marshall, they designed the Mark III, and then they're kind of like, well, how can we do that different? I'd like foot switching. I'd like reverb. I'd like more op amps for cheaper manufacturing. Because, like, why? You know, they have very similar diode clipping. Mark III has that same chunk right there, but it also has this thing here that I'm not sure what it does. Oh, you know what? I also have the depth up. I have a depth knob on this guy. Well, let's go back to this amp, which is what this is about. I just noticed it's in Triode mode. That might make a difference in tone. Ah, yes, we got some warmth and grind back out of it. Okay, okay. It wasn't fair before. Seems a bit more dirtier sounding too. Let's bring that gain down just like one notch. So, what about overdrive? How does this amp overdrive? And one thing you might have noticed is while I'm playing and stop playing, those LEDs on the back blinking. That's because the Infinium circuit will wait till you stop playing to double check the bias. And as far as I know, it'll continuously do that as long as you have the amp running. So it's always gonna make micro adjustments to those bias, keep them right in their whatever sweet spot that they've determined. So for overdrive, I got the old Cobalt Conspiracy here, a DOD 250 clone that I built using the wrong parts, but it turned out to sound just fine. In fact, I rather like the sound of it, so it turned out really well. The op amp flavor today is a Burr Brown OPA 277, which is one of my new favorites, especially for amps like this that don't need a lot of drive. It's not the hottest sounding op amp in the world. Settings are like right here now. I don't have a third camera angle, so. I'm bringing the gain down halfway. That throttles low end. That's what happens sometimes. If you don't have enough gain, you lose low end. Let's try 18. You know, it has the gain you need for extreme metal, just not the brrr. Remember, the bass is cranked right now. Let's compare that to my Mark 3. Man, it's amazing how similar they sound. Let's add some depth to this. Let's also crank the bass like we do on the Marshall. I think it's the Mark 3. We have two gain knobs. Sometimes bring that one down a touch, and with overdrive halfway for that one. Oh, I lost my harmonics. That's no good. All right, let's switch back to the Bugera. Now, that Yamaha is an alder body, Duncan custom in the bridge. It has 42s tuned to D. It's gonna have a brighter sound, more attack, more crunch. That's why I like it. But that's also why I like it in darker sounding amps. Let's try something a little bit more dank sounding. No overdrive. So this is the Ibanez XL 27-inch long scale. I got 52s, I do believe, on it, tuned to standard B, and it's actually a Duncan 59 in the bridge. We're kicking it PAF style. Let's give it some overdrive. feel the brightness of this amp can actually work well with a dark sounding guitar. I would imagine a Gibson would be a bit darker. That's probably the guitar they had in mind. Also, when you got that low end, it kind of fills in the low end in the amp itself. Let's compare that to the Mark 3 real quick. Definitely warmer, but less harmonics. Interesting. Interesting. Now, this is not relevant to the sound of this particular amp, but I am gonna try doing something a little bit different in my pedal here. The 277 is cool, but it's not reference. What's a good reference? How about the TL081? That's gonna have a smoother sound to it. This amp already has an aggressive tone. And then just to fill in that low end, I'm gonna bump the input capacitor from 1N to, let's try 1N8. And let's bring my eyes up here, bud, because I'm doing a lot of standing, right? Yeah. To bring the gain on the pedal up just a bit. Not doing well in the harmonic department all of a sudden. Now, this isn't the most harmonic guitar, but we were doing better before. Scientific method says only change one thing at a time. Oh boy, I just changed my input capacitor. Does this 1.8N suck? Yeah. Okay, well, we got our harmonics back. Or did we? Okay, so something worth trying. What happens if we overdrive that normal clean channel? It's set to 11. That's about where I would put it to drive my 800. Drive the snot out my 800. They're up there. They're like both at 80%, but they're not quite max. It's devastation with a side of orange juice. Like literally, there's a citrusy tone. Just you can hear the oranges just being squished in the background. Would we call that California metal? actually really get a kick out of that tone. It's like one of those really drooly dogs barking, just they just like bark at you really loud, and just a whole bunch of just splatter flies out. What the frick else can we do to this pupper bud? What the frick else? I gotta swap out the op amp again. And that has nothing to do with the amp itself. I'm just really enjoying myself playing these overdriven tones into this pupper. That's a NOS RCA CA3140E. Whew, a little bit more. It's got a lot of Now, are we really showcasing the amp at this point? Whoa! Well, granted, we're not very high up there in the volume spectrum. Let's give that a try. I've never seen an amp do that before. Let me show you something. And this doesn't make any sense. The sound wasn't necessarily tight, but it did have a nice warm resonance and a roar. I'm also only running 2 tubes, so while they're running a little bit hotter than normal right now. Especially, I got 4 ohms of cab, I can only really set it to 4 ohms, so either way, that's not what I'm noticing that's wrong. I can't even necessarily say what I'm seeing is wrong, it's just something I've never noticed before. We're gonna have to turn down the lights. Watch the heaters. I've never seen heaters glow more when you crank the amp. You see the blueness bouncing around, but the heaters? That's different. That's different. Now, granted, it's probably liable to have a nicer, tighter sound with the proper 4 set of tubes in there. That still was pretty good for a 2-tube setup. It roars. It roars. Now, for the record, the cab I'm using, this is loaded with Eminence governors. The cab down there is loaded with Swamp Things. I find they record really well, so that's what I've been using for this. So just in reference, if you're wondering about that kind of thing. Mind you, in person and live, I don't know if I like the sound of Swamp Things as much. I prefer the governors. Yada yada yada. This video, I think, has run on long enough. I'm not sure what to show you here. It's very simple. There's a little bit less to it than some other amps. Maybe I could try plugging in some distortion pedals, but what the heck would the point of that be? Like, why? You wouldn't buy an amp like this for a distortion pedal. But the Bugera 1990, can it do rock? Yeah. Can it do alternative? Well, yeah, it's the alternative sound. Hey, my eyes are down here, bud. Can it do metal? Yeah, absolutely. With the right overdrive pedal, a bit of a dark driving tone to it. Yeah, actually, quite a bit. But it is a bright amp. Keep that in mind. The stock tubes, I don't know. I haven't put them in. Do you really want to hear the stock tubes? Nah, screw it. This isn't a tube shootout. This is what this amp can do with my preferred set. It sounds better now than the stock version. But hey, it's got Infinium on it. And that's really what's great about an amp like this for the price. You can just be like, oh, let's pull those 6L6s out, sir. Let's put in those EL34s. Oh, maybe we should try some KTs today, sir. Try whatever the heck you want. Go out there, buy tubes, like your girlfriend buys shoes. That's assuming gender. Never mind. Either way, it's the flavor of the month, bud. Experiment. And you can make pretty much any tube amp sound better than you think it can. Where am I going with this anecdote? I don't know, this isn't scripted. If you enjoyed this, stay tuned for more. This is the last Bugera amp I plan on having here for a while. Otherwise, I work on amps sometimes. I play with guitar sometimes. I play with pedals sometimes. I play with computers sometimes. And that's just what I've done on the channel so far. Who knows what I will do in the future? I don't even know.